Sometimes, the worst betrayals aren't what they seem. Sometimes, what looks like the end of your world is actually the beginning of your salvation. And sometimes, the person you think is destroying you, is the only one fighting to save you. Meet Serena Whitmore Valente. 47 years old. Corporate lawyer turned mob wife. A woman who wears Chanel-like armor and hides her breaking heart behind perfectly applied lipstick. She's survived 3 miscarriages. 2 failed IVF attempts. A marriage to one of New York's most dangerous men, Adrian Valente, whose ice-blue eyes can freeze a room and whose last name makes grown men whisper. And now, after years of devastating loss, she's carrying a secret in her womb. A fragile, terrifying, 2-month-old secret. A pregnancy she hasn't told her husband about because she can't bear to see doubt flicker in his eyes one more time. Can you give me an heir? The unspoken question that haunts her marriage like a ghost. But tonight, on Christmas Eve, as she drives toward her childhood home with designer bags and carefully wrapped lies, Serena has no idea that everything she believes about love, about loyalty, about her own sister, is about to shatter like glass. The Whitmore family estate looked like a postcard that Christmas Eve. Like something out of a dream you'd never want to wake from. Picture this, a Georgian mansion, all columns and symmetry, wrapped in fresh snow that had been falling since dawn. Ancient oak trees lining the circular drive, every branch dressed in tiny white lights that twinkled like fallen stars. Through the tall windows, a 15-foot Christmas tree blazing with gold ribbons and antique ornaments that had belonged to her grandmother. Perfect. It should have been perfect. But Serena sat frozen in her Mercedes in that circular drive, hands trembling on the leather steering wheel, fighting every instinct that screamed at her to turn around. To drive back to Manhattan. Back to the cold marble penthouse she shared with Adrian, where at least the emptiness was honest. Where she didn't have to smile and pretend and lie about why her husband wasn't coming for Christmas. Her hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, still flat, still hiding its precious secret. A gesture she'd performed 1,000 times over the past 2 months. 2 months of secret doctor's appointments. 2 months of cautious, terrified hope. 2 months of prenatal vitamins hidden in her makeup bag. 2 months of not telling Adrian because... God, because what if she lost this one too? At 47, Serena knew the statistics. Every cruel probability was burned into her memory. Her doctors had explained it with careful compassion: advanced maternal age, history of loss, declining ovarian reserve. Translation? Her body was a graveyard for the children she desperately wanted to give her husband. And Adrian? Adrian was only 42. Still young enough, still powerful enough to have chosen anyone. A younger wife. A more fertile wife. A wife whose body didn't betray her at every turn. But he'd chosen her. 10 years ago, at a charity gala, across a crowded ballroom, those ice-blue eyes had found hers. And in that moment, something in the universe had shifted. Clicked into place like a key in a lock. She'd been a corporate lawyer then, successful, independent, 37 and confident in her own skin. She'd known who Adrian Valente was. Everyone in New York knew the Valente name, even if they pretended not to understand what it really meant. Organized crime. The family. Blood and loyalty and violence wrapped in Italian suits and legitimate business fronts. She should have run. Instead, she'd fallen. Fallen so hard and so fast that by the time she realized the depth of the darkness she was marrying into, she was already in love with the man who lived there. Get it together, Serena, she whispered to herself, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. Dark hair pulled back in a sleek chignon, a few threads of silver she'd stopped coloring 2 years ago, small rebellions against the pressure to stay frozen in time. Makeup flawless because in Adrian's world, appearance was armor. Weakness was blood in the water. She looked composed. Elegant. The perfect wife of a powerful man. She looked like a woman who had no idea her world was about to detonate, Serena gathered her Louis Vuitton overnight bag and the carefully wrapped gifts from the passenger seat. Cashmere for her mother. Rare scotch for her father. A vintage Hermes scarf for Lyanna. She paused at that last one, feeling a strange flutter of unease she couldn't name. Lyanna. Her baby sister. Beautiful, brilliant, perpetually restless Lyanna. Now 39, staying at the family estate for the past month. Needing space to think, according to their mother's chatty phone calls. Reassessing her priorities. Lyanna had blown through 2 marriages by 35. 3 careers. More of their parents' money than Serena wanted to calculate. But she was still the baby. Still indulged, forgiven, welcomed home with open arms whenever life got too complicated. Serena had learned long ago not to resent it. They'd been close once, back when they were girls. Before life and choices and the crushing weight of expectations had wedged distance between them like a wall of ice. Maybe this Christmas could begin to repair that distance, Serena thought. Maybe. The front door flew open before she could gather her courage. Serena, darling. I was starting to worry you'd changed your mind. Her mother appeared, elegant in cream cashmere and pearls, arms outstretched like wings. Serena climbed out of the car and let herself be enveloped in that familiar embrace. Chanel No. 5 and warmth and the soft clink of gold bracelets. Home. This was supposed to feel like home. Traffic was terrible, Serena lied. In truth, she'd sat in a coffee shop in Greenwich for 90 minutes, staring at her phone, willing Adrian to call. To text. To give her some reason to believe the distance between them was temporary. Fixable. He hadn't. Where's Adrian? Her mother asked, pulling back to study Serena's face with those sharp maternal eyes that saw too much. He had business. He'll try to come tomorrow. Another lie. Adrian had told her 3 days ago, his voice flat and distant, I won't be joining you for Christmas. Too much happening with the family. And when Adrian said family, he didn't mean in-laws and turkey dinner. He meant his other family. The one built on blood and loyalty and violence. The family Serena had agreed to marry into, even as she told herself she could somehow stay separate from it. Naive. She'd been so naive. That man works too hard, her mother said carefully. But there was something in her tone that suggested she suspected the real reason for Adrian's absence and had chosen not to voice it. The house wrapped around Serena like a memory as they stepped inside. Pine and cinnamon. Wood smoke from the fireplace. The musty sweetness of old books from her father's library. Every scent a time machine pulling her backward into a version of herself that still believed in happy endings. The great room was even more beautiful up close. The massive tree. Stockings hung from the marble mantel, including one with her name embroidered in gold thread, even though she hadn't lived here in nearly 20 years. I put you in your old room, her mother said, leading her up the curved staircase. I know you probably think it's silly, but it just feels right having you back where you belong. Where you belong. The words echoed in Serena's mind as they climbed to the second floor. Did she belong here, in this carefully preserved shrine to her childhood? Or did she belong in Adrian's world of late-night meetings and coded phone calls and the very careful dance of being married to power? Or did she belong nowhere at all? Hit that like button right now, friends. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story of heartbreak and redemption travels across the world. And stay with me, because the twist in this tale, you'll never see it coming. What if I told you that on Christmas Eve, a woman walked into a room and saw her husband kissing her sister, and that single moment of devastation would become the greatest gift she ever received? What if the betrayal that shattered her heart was actually an act of love so profound, it would rewrite everything she thought she knew about loyalty, sacrifice, and family? This is Serena's story. And I promise you, nothing is what it seems. I need to check on dinner, her mother said when they reached the landing. Lionel's been helping me plan the menu. She's developed quite an interest in cooking lately. Can you believe it? Your sister who once burned water. Serena managed a laugh that felt only slightly forced. Miracles do happen. Indeed they do, her mother said, squeezing her arm. I'm so glad you're home, sweetheart. It's been too long. Then she was gone, heels clicking back down the stairs, leaving Serena alone in the hallway of her childhood. Her old bedroom was at the end of the corridor, past Lionel's room, past the guest suite, past the storage room still filled with boxes of school projects and childhood toys their mother couldn't bear to throw away. Serena walked slowly, trailing her fingers along the silk wallpaper. Family photos lined the walls, a timeline of the Whitmore girls growing up, growing apart, becoming women with separate lives and different wounds. She was almost to her door when she heard it. A sound from the guest suite. Soft. Intimate. The kind of sound that makes your blood run cold even before your brain understands why. Her hand froze on her overnight bag. It's nothing, she told herself. Probably just. But her feet were already moving. Carrying her toward that partially open door like she was a puppet and some cruel god was pulling the strings. She should have turned away. She should have kept walking. Instead, Serena Whitmore Valente, 47 years old, 2 months pregnant, and about to have her world destroyed, pushed open the door to the guest suite. And saw. Music stops completely, silence. Her husband. And her sister. Adrian's hands in Lionel's hair. Lionel's fingers clutching his shoulders. Their lips pressed together with an intimacy that spoke of familiarity. Of this not being the first time. Time crystallized. Froze. Shattered. Serena couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't do anything but stand there, overnight bag slipping from nerveless fingers, one hand pressed against her stomach where a fragile life grew, completely unaware that the world it was supposed to be born into had just ceased to exist. They broke apart. Adrian's ice-blue eyes met hers, and there was something there she'd never seen before. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Serena, he started. But she was already backing away. Already turning. Already running. Down the hallway. Down the stairs. Past her mother calling her name from the kitchen. Out the front door into the snow that was falling harder now, stinging her face, mixing with tears she didn't remember starting to cry. She made it to her Mercedes. Made it inside. Locked the doors. And then Serena Whitmore Valente, composed, elegant, the perfect wife of a powerful man, shattered into 1,000 pieces. Serena sat in her car for what might have been minutes or hours. Time had lost all meaning. Her phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again. Adrian calling. She watched his name flash on the screen like it belonged to a stranger. How many times had she seen that name and felt her heart leap? How many times had she answered, eager to hear his voice, hungry for whatever scraps of attention he could spare between family business? Now the sight of it made her stomach turn. She let it go to voicemail. Then deleted the voicemail without listening. Then blocked the number. 30 seconds of decisive action after 10 years of making excuses. Her hands moved to her stomach again. Protective. Instinctive. I'm sorry, she whispered to the tiny cluster of cells that didn't know yet what kind of world it was being born into. I'm so sorry. The passenger door suddenly opened. Serena's head snapped up, heart hammering. But it wasn't Adrian. It was Lionel. Her sister slid into the passenger seat, hair disheveled, mascara slightly smudged, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd been in Adrian's arms minutes ago. She looked terrified. Get out, Serena said. Her voice was ice. Foreign to her own ears. Serena, please. Get out of my car. I can't. Lionel's voice cracked. Not until you hear me. Not until you understand. Understand? Serena laughed, and it was a horrible sound. Broken glass and battery acid. Oh, I understand perfectly. My husband is fou. He's dying. Silence. The snow fell harder. The Christmas lights on the house blurred through Serena's tears. And those two words hung in the air like a death sentence. What? The word barely made it past Serena's lips. Lyanna was crying now. Really crying. Ugly, devastating sobs that shook her whole body. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. He has maybe 6 months. Maybe less. The world tilted. You're lying. I'm not. You're lying too. He made me promise not to tell you. Lyanna grabbed Serena's arm, desperate. He made me swear on our parents' lives that I wouldn't tell you because you're pregnant, Serena. He knows. He's known for weeks. Everything stopped. How? Serena couldn't finish the sentence. He had you followed. He has people watching you. God, you know how he operates. He knew about the secret doctor's appointments. The prenatal vitamins. Everything. Lyanna's fingers dug into Serena's coat. And when he got his diagnosis, all he could think about was that you'd lose this baby if you found out. That the stress would kill it like it killed the others. No. Serena was shaking her head. No, that doesn't explain what I saw. That doesn't explain you. He needed someone to manage his affairs. To protect you. To make sure that when he's gone, you and the baby are safe from his enemies. Lyanna's voice dropped to barely a whisper. His world, Serena, there are people who would hurt you to hurt him. People who would use a pregnant widow as leverage or worse. He needed someone outside the family business. Someone he could trust. Someone who loved you enough to do whatever it takes. So he chose you? I volunteered. Lyanna's face was a mask of pain. When he told me, when he asked for help, I volunteered because you're my sister. Because I've watched you love this man for 10 years. Because I've watched you break your heart trying to give him a child. And now that you finally have one growing inside you, I'll be damned if I let anything threaten that. Serena's mind was spinning. Fragments of the past few months suddenly clicking into horrible focus. Adrian's distance. His late nights. The way he'd looked at her sometimes with such devastating tenderness it made her chest ache. The way he'd stopped touching her stomach during their last intimate moments, as if afraid of what was growing there. He knew. The kiss, Serena forced out. Why were you? There's a mole in his organization. Lyanna wiped her eyes. Someone feeding information to the Calabrese family. Someone close. Adrian has been trying to flush them out, and the best way to do that was to create a scandal. To make it look like his marriage was falling apart. To see who would try to use that weakness against him. So you pretended. We staged it. He knew you'd be arriving around this time. He knew you'd probably come upstairs. The door being open wasn't an accident, Serena. Neither was what you saw. Lyanna's laugh was bitter. Do you think I enjoyed kissing your husband? Do you think there's any universe where I'd betray you like that? But why not just tell me? Why put me through? Because you can't lie worth a damn. And despite everything, there was almost affection in Lyanna's voice. You wear your heart on your face. If you knew the truth, any of it, everyone in Adrian's world would know something was wrong. The mole would disappear. And you and the baby would be in danger the moment Adrian is too weak to protect you. Serena felt like she was drowning. I don't. I can't. He loves you. Lyanna's voice broke on the words. God, Serena, he loves you so much it's destroying him. Destroying him to keep this from you. But he'd rather you hate him and stay alive than love him and become a target. 6 months? Serena heard herself ask. That's all? Maybe less. The cancer's aggressive. He's refused treatment because the chemo would make him weak, vulnerable. He needs to stay strong enough to secure everything. To make sure the transition of power goes to someone who'll honor his protection of you. To make sure his enemies are neutralized before he dies. The words hung unspoken. Serena's hands moved to her stomach again. 2 months pregnant. 6 months until Adrian. Their child would never know its father. There's something else. Lionel's voice was barely audible now. The pregnancy. It's high risk. Your age, your history. Adrian made me swear that if it came down to a choice between you and the baby. No. He said you, Serena. Every time. He'd choose you every single time. Tears were streaming down Serena's face now. I have to see him. I have to. You can't know. Lionel grabbed her shoulders. You can't let him see that you know. The mole hasn't been identified yet. If you start acting differently, if you show weakness or grief or fear, it could expose everything. You have to be strong. You have to pretend you believe what you saw. You have to. You're asking me to act like I hate him? While he's dying? I'm asking you to let him save you. Lionel's eyes were fierce. This is how he loves you, Serena. This is his last gift. Let him give it. The sisters sat in that Mercedes for a long time as snow piled up around them and Christmas lights twinkled, and inside the house, their parents remained blissfully unaware that their eldest daughter's entire world had just been rewritten. Finally, Serena spoke. How long have you known? 3 weeks. He came to me right after Thanksgiving. Asked me to come stay at the family estate to be close to you. To be ready to step in when he can't anymore. And you just dropped everything? You're my sister. Lionel said it like it was the simplest truth in the universe. What else would I do? Serena turned to look at her baby sister, really look at her for the first time in years. Saw the exhaustion. The fear. The weight of a secret that had aged her. I'm sorry, Serena whispered. For all the years I thought you were careless. Selfish. I didn't see. I didn't want you to see. That was the point. Lionel managed a watery smile. Someone had to be the mess so you could be the perfect one. I'm not perfect. No. But you're loved. By a man who would burn the world down to keep you safe. And by a sister who would lie to your face to protect you. Lionel reached for Serena's hand. We're going to get through this. All of us. You, me, the baby. We're going to survive this nightmare, and on the other side, you're going to have a piece of Adrian that lives forever. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You've survived 3 miscarriages. You've survived being married to one of the most dangerous men in New York. You've survived everything life has thrown at you. Lionel squeezed her hand. You can survive this too. How do I go back in there and face him? How do I pretend? You love him. Use that. Love makes us capable of impossible things. Serena took a deep breath. Then another. Her free hand pressed against her stomach, against the tiny life that needed her to be brave. To be strong. To be everything Adrian believed she was. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Tell me what I need to do. And in that moment, Serena Whitmore Valente made a choice. Not to break. Not to run. But to love so fiercely, so completely, that she would play the role her dying husband needed her to play. That she would protect his final gift by pretending to reject it. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone think you don't love them anymore. Lionel laid out the plan. How Serena would go back inside and act devastated, betrayed. How she'd leave in the morning and return to Manhattan. How she'd file for separation, papers that would never be finalized but would look real to anyone watching. How she'd move into a secure apartment Adrian had already arranged. How Lyanna would serve as the go-between, the other woman who'd stolen her husband, when really she was the guardian angel orchestrating everything from the shadows. And when the end comes, you'll be there. Lyanna's voice was firm. I promise you that. In his final moments, you'll be there, and he'll know you know, and he'll leave this world knowing his last act was keeping you and his child safe. It was the worst plan Serena had ever heard. It was also the only plan that might work. The next 4 months were the longest of Serena's life. She became 2 women. 2 versions of herself existing in parallel universes. To the world, to Adrian's enemies, to everyone watching, she was the wronged wife. She moved into a luxury apartment in Tribeca with round-the-clock security she pretended not to notice. She hired a prominent divorce attorney who drew up papers that looked devastating and real. She avoided Adrian's calls, his texts, his increasingly desperate attempts to see her. She played the part perfectly. But at night, when the city lights flickered through her windows and she was alone with the baby growing inside her, she was still his wife. Still in love with a dying man. Still counting down the days until she'd never hear his voice again. Lyanna was her lifeline. Her sister visited twice a week, playing the role of guilty other woman with such convincing remorse that even Serena sometimes forgot it was an act. But in the privacy of Serena's apartment, they'd drop the masks. Lyanna would update her on Adrian's condition, getting weaker, the cancer spreading faster than predicted, on the hunt for the mole, narrowed down to 3 suspects, on the plans being put in place for after. After. Such a small word for something so enormous. After Adrian died. After Serena gave birth. After their child grew up never knowing the man who'd sacrificed everything to protect them. He asks about you, Lyanna said one evening in early March. Rain streaked the windows. Serena was 16 weeks along now, just starting to show. Every single day he asks if you're okay. If the baby's okay. Serena's hand moved to her small bump. What do you tell him? That you're healthy. Eating well. Following doctor's orders. That the baby's heartbeat is strong. Lyanna's eyes were red-rimmed. I don't tell him that you cry yourself to sleep most nights. Or that you've worn your wedding ring on a chain around your neck because you can't bear to take it off completely. Does he know the gender yet? They'd found out 2 weeks ago. Serena had made Lyanna come to the ultrasound appointment, needing someone to share the moment with, even if it couldn't be the person she most wanted there. I told him yesterday. Lyanna smiled through tears. A boy. He's having a son. Serena, you should have seen his face. For just a moment, he looked, at peace. A son. Adrian's son. Who would carry his name but never know his father's touch. There's something else, Lyanna said carefully. He wants to see you. One last time. Before he's too weak? Before it's too obvious he's dying? Before he loses his courage to let you go. They arranged it for a Tuesday afternoon. Neutral ground, a private room at the back of an Italian restaurant Adrian owned in Little Italy. The kind of place where everyone knew to look the other way, where security was invisible but absolute. Serena dressed carefully. Not for him, she told herself. For the cameras. For whoever might be watching. A simple black dress that hid her pregnancy. Her hair pulled back severely. Minimal jewelry except for the wedding ring she'd moved back to her finger for this meeting. She looked like a woman preparing to finalize her grief. Her hands shook as she walked into the restaurant. And then she saw him. Oh, God. Adrian. He'd lost at least 20 pounds. His suit hung differently on his frame. His face was gaunt, cheekbones too prominent, eyes sunken. But those ice-blue eyes, those were the same. Still capable of stopping her heart. Still looking at her like she was the only thing in his universe worth seeing. He stood when she entered. Slowly. Carefully. Like movement caused pain. Serena. Just her name. But the way he said it held 10 years of love. Adrian. She kept her voice cold. Remembered the act. Remembered that somewhere, someone might be listening, watching, waiting for weakness. They sat across from each other at a small table. A bottle of wine between them, he poured her a glass out of habit, then remembered. Pushed it aside. How are you? His voice was rougher than she remembered. How am I? The laugh that came out was bitter, perfect. You're asking me how I am? I know I have no right. You have no right. She leaned forward, and the anger in her eyes was only half-act. Because part of her was furious. Furious that he'd made this choice without her. That he'd stolen their last months together. That he was leaving. You destroyed everything. Our marriage. Our future. Did you even think about me? About what this would do to me? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain that had nothing to do with cancer. Every second of every day, he said quietly. You're all I think about. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't make this about love. If you loved me, you wouldn't have, her voice cracked perfectly. You wouldn't have done this. I did this because I love you. The words hung between them. Double-edged. True in ways she was supposed to know and ways she couldn't acknowledge. Adrian reached across the table. Stopped just short of touching her hand. I need you to know something. Whatever you think happened, whatever you believe about me and Lyanna, it wasn't real. None of it was real. Then what was it? She let tears gather in her eyes. Explain it to me. Make me understand why you'd throw away 10 years. I can't. And the anguish in those two words was real. Not yet. But someday you'll understand. And when you do, I hope you'll forgive me. There's nothing to forgive, she said, voice breaking, if there was nothing between you. There wasn't. I swear on everything holy, Serena. My heart belongs to one woman. It always has. It always will. He was killing her. Killing them both. Playing this scene knowing she knew the truth but couldn't say it, knowing he was dying but couldn't tell her, knowing these were their last moments together and they had to spend them lying. I'm pregnant. The words fell like bombs into the silence. Adrian went absolutely still. What? I'm pregnant. 4 months. With your child. She lifted her chin. So whatever happens between us, whatever you've done, you need to know that you're going to be a father. She watched the emotions cascade across his face. Joy. Devastation. Fear. Love so intense it was almost violent. Serena. His voice broke completely. Is the baby healthy? He's perfect. Strong heartbeat. Growing right on schedule. She paused. He'll never know you. Direct hit. Adrian's face drained of what little color it had. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. By the time he's born, you'll be. She gestured vaguely. Whatever this is, whatever you've become, it won't include being a father to our son. I would give anything. Then give me the truth. The fury in her voice was real now. Months of holding everything in erupting. Give me one honest moment. Tell me why you're doing this. Why you're choosing her over me. Over us. Adrian was shaking. His hands gripped the table edge like he might fall without it. And in his eyes, she saw him warring with himself. Saw him wanting to confess everything. Wanting to pull her into his arms and never let go. But he didn't. Because loving her meant letting her believe he'd stopped. "I can't," he whispered. "God help me, Serena, I can't." She stood. The chair scraped against the floor with finality. "Then we're done. Sign the papers. Let me go. Let our son have a chance at a life that doesn't include." She gestured at him, at the restaurant, at everything his world represented. "This. I'll take care of you," he said urgently. "Both of you. There are accounts. Protections. You'll never want for anything. Except his father." The words were a knife between his ribs. Serena could see it in the way he flinched. "I'm sorry," Adrian said. And in those two words was everything he couldn't say. "I'm sorry I'm dying. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry I have to hurt you to save you. I'm sorry our son will grow up without me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry." Serena turned to leave. Made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. "Serena." She didn't turn around. "I love you. I need you to know that. Whatever you think of me, whatever you believe, I love you more than my own life. More than anything in this world. And I always will." She closed her eyes. Let one tear fall where he couldn't see it. "Goodbye, Adrian." And she walked out of his life. May came with cherry blossoms and warm rain. Serena was 7 months pregnant, round and glowing and completely miserable with grief. Lyanna had moved into her apartment the week before. Just to be safe, they told anyone who asked. But really because Serena needed her sister. Needed someone who knew the truth. Who understood that every day was both a countdown to birth and a countdown to death. "He's in the hospital," Lyanna said one morning in late May. Her face was drawn. "He collapsed 2 days ago. The doctors say, maybe a week. Maybe less." Serena's water broke that night. 2 months early. Chaos. Panic. An emergency C-section because the baby was breech and distressed. Lyanna holding her hand through it all, whispering that it would be okay, that everything would be okay. At 11:47 p.m. on May 23, Adrian Valente Jr. came into the world. Small but fierce. 5 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. Serena held him and wept. For joy. For grief. For the man who'd never get to hold his son. "We have to take him," Lyanna said urgently. To Adrian. "Now. While there's still time." They bundled the hours-old infant into a car seat. Drove through Manhattan to the private hospital where Adrian lay dying. Security cleared them immediately. Lyanna had arranged everything. The room was dark except for the glow of monitors. Adrian lay propped against pillows, oxygen mask over his face, 4 lines snaking into both arms. He looked barely conscious. Until he saw her. Serena. Muffled through the mask. Barely a whisper. She moved to his bedside, cradling their son. And here, finally, with death waiting in the wings and no more time for lies, she let the truth show on her face. "I know," she said softly. "I've known since Christmas. About the cancer. About the plan. About all of it." His eyes widened. "How?" "Lyanna told me that first night. Everything." She sat carefully on the edge of his bed. "You really thought I'd let you die believing I hated you?" "The plan," he managed. "The protection. If anyone knew you knew. The mole was identified 3 weeks ago. Lyanna didn't tell you because she knew you'd tell me if you thought I was safe." She smiled through tears. "We protected each other, love. Just like we always have." Adrian reached up with shaking hands. Pushed the oxygen mask aside. Show me my son. Serena lowered the baby so Adrian could see his face. Could see the tiny features, his eyes, her nose, a perfect combination of them both. Hello, little one, Adrian whispered. I'm your father. And I love you more than you'll ever know. The baby opened his eyes. Looked directly at Adrian with that unfocused newborn gaze that somehow feels like recognition. Father and son. For one moment. One precious, perfect moment. Then Adrian looked at Serena. Take care of him. We'll take care of each other. She leaned down, pressed her lips to his forehead. Thank you for saving us. For loving us enough to let me think you didn't. Always, he breathed. Forever. Even after. Even after, she agreed. We'll carry you with us. In every heartbeat. Every breath. Every moment of the life you gave us. Lyanna stepped forward, placing a hand on Serena's shoulder. The three of them, two sisters and a dying man, creating a circle around a brand new life. I'm sorry, Lyanna said to Adrian. For having to be the villain in your love story. You were never the villain, Adrian said. You were the guardian angel. He died 40 minutes later. Serena was holding his hand. Their son was sleeping against her chest. And the last thing Adrian Valente saw was his wife's face, filled with love. Not hatred. Not betrayal. Love. Pure. Fierce. Eternal. 5 years later, Serena stood in her childhood bedroom at the Whitmore estate. It was Christmas Eve again. Full circle. But this time, she wasn't alone. A 4-year-old boy with ice blue eyes and dark hair ran past her, laughing as Lyanna chased him, pretending to be a monster. Mama! Save me from Auntie! Serena scooped him up, breathing in the scent of his hair. He smelled like cookies and innocence and hope. Did Auntie tell you the story? She asked. About Daddy? About Daddy. She said he was brave. And that he loved us very much. Even though he had to go to heaven before I was born. That's exactly right, baby. Will I be brave like Daddy? Serena looked into her son's eyes, so like his father's it sometimes took her breath away. You already are. The Whitmore estate was filled with family that night. Her parents, older now but still vibrant. Lyanna, who'd never left Serena's side in the years since that terrible Christmas. And little Adrian, carrying his father's name and his mother's strength. Later, after the boy was asleep, Serena and Lyanna stood at the window of that same guest suite. The one where everything had changed. Do you think he knew? Lyanna asked. How it would all turn out. He knew we'd survive, Serena said. That's all that mattered to him. Do you ever regret it? Playing along? Not demanding more time? Serena was quiet for a moment. Then, every day. And never. She touched the wedding ring she still wore. He gave me the greatest gift anyone could give. He gave me our son. And he made sure we'd be safe enough to raise him. That's not a sacrifice I can regret, even though it cost me everything. He loved you so much. I know. And I loved him enough to let him love me the only way he knew how. She turned to her sister. Thank you. For being strong when I couldn't be. For playing the villain so I could stay the victim. For protecting us. Lyanna hugged her tight. That's what sisters do. Outside, snow began to fall. Just like it had 5 years ago. But this time, there was no betrayal in the night. No lies. No fear. Just love. In all its complicated, sacrificial, devastating glory. And somewhere, Serena liked to believe, Adrian was watching. Knowing his son was safe. Knowing his wife was strong. knowing that his final act of love had become their greatest gift. So what's the lesson in all of this? What does this story of sacrifice and misunderstanding teach us? It's simple. Love isn't always what it looks like on the surface. Sometimes love is letting someone hate you to keep them safe. Sometimes love is carrying a secret that destroys you to protect someone else. Sometimes love is playing the villain in someone else's story so they can be the hero in their own. And sometimes, what looks like the worst betrayal of your life is actually the greatest act of devotion anyone could give. We live in a world that teaches us love should be easy, comfortable, straightforward. But the deepest love? The kind that changes everything? That's often messy and complicated and requires us to be braver than we ever thought possible. Adrian loved Serena enough to let her believe he'd stopped. Serena loved Adrian enough to let him die thinking he'd protected her. Lionel loved them both enough to sacrifice her own reputation for their safety. That's real love. That's the kind of love that echoes through generations. So before you judge what you see, before you assume you understand someone's choices, remember Serena. Remember how close she came to losing everything because she trusted what her eyes told her instead of what her heart knew. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the ugliest paper. Sometimes the people hurting us are actually saving us. And sometimes, love means enduring the unbearable so someone else doesn't have to. Final words. If this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, if it made you think differently about love and sacrifice, please, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Tell me, have you ever misunderstood someone's actions, only to learn they were protecting you? Have you ever had to make a sacrifice that looked like betrayal? Share your stories below. And remember, sometimes what breaks your heart is actually saving your life. Until next time, friends. Love fiercely. Forgive freely. And never forget that things are rarely what they seem. This is your storyteller, signing off. End music swells and fades. Broken Heart Life Lesson Summary. Broken heart. The deepest love often wears the mask of betrayal. True love sometimes requires us to sacrifice our own happiness for another's safety. Endure being misunderstood to protect someone. Let people believe the worst about us to save them. Trust that love will reveal itself when the time is right. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear the faces of villains until the truth can finally be told. Hashtag never judge what you don't understand. Hashtag love is sacrifice. Hashtag sometimes betrayal is salvation. The end of Serena and Adrian's story. But the beginning of a legacy of love that will live.